All right, let's get to our 4 big topics. And let's start with Joe Burrow here and the Bengals. So Hog Fan, who we also featured in last week's show, said, just how cooked are the Bengals rest of season? Dan, what do you think?
So I don't think this is as cooked situation as it would be for a lot of these other offenses. Like, for example, like last year with Cooper Rush playing that offense for the Cowboys, and just some of those like more limited quarterbacks, I should say. But from what I saw, and I watched every snap of Jake Browning after he got in the game, my takeaways are this is going to be not good news, but better news for Jamar Chase, because they found a lot of, at least what I thought Zach Taylor was trying to do, is find a lot of easy solutions for Browning. And a lot of that was just screens and quick hitters to Jamar Chase, which I think they're going to do a lot of, and they've done some of the past. I think it's bad news for T. Higgins, despite T. Higgins catching that touchdown, which he had an unbelievable release off the line of scrimmage, just burned the DB, and it was actually a good ball. There were 2 or 3 other one-on-one shots to Higgins that were just terribly off target. I think this is not good for Higgins personally moving forward. Chase Brown, I think it'll be good for him in PPR, or okay for him in PPR leagues, but I think the touchdowns will come down. The thing with Browning is, like, after he came into the game, Jacksonville clearly was like, all right, let's see what this guy has, because for the first time all game, they went away from the too high shell that everyone plays against Burrow, and they rotated the other safety down and put the one safety in the middle of the field. And Browning burned them with a deep out route to Jamar Chase. So it's like, all right. And then from that point on, Jacksonville went back to too high. So they're going to play him similar to how they play Joe Burrow. But the problem is Browning just can't make all the throws that Burrow makes. He's late on a lot of throws. His ball placement is nowhere near what Burrow's is. So I just think overall the passing game will suffer a bit, but it's not like some of the other backup quarterbacks that we have, because they actually, 1, let him run the system that they run. It's the same system. And 2, they let him make a lot of aggressive throws. They're not having him check down a lot. So I think for a fantasy standpoint, it won't be a killer, but I would think this is better news for Chase than anyone.
I've got some numbers.
Yeah, we'll also talk about Chase Brown in this.
Yeah.
Mr. Between the Tackles, Chase Brown, apparently. It's all they do with him. It's so annoying. But what do you got, Jacob?
So over his career, Browning has thrown 14.5% of his targets to running backs, which is right on par with Joe Burrow, 14.6%. So I think we could see more targets for Chase Brown than we saw this week. And then per Ryan Heath, the XFP for the wide receivers, the expected fantasy points, has dropped to a kind of scary range. It's like 11 to 12 XFP per game for Jamar Chase and T. Higgins across 7 games with Jake Browning as a starter, which is not where you want. That's like wide receiver 40 range. These guys are so good that they can exceed that, obviously. But I did want to bring that up, that even though Browning has played pretty well in these starts by and large, the XFP hasn't been super high for the receivers. It's been more like Joe Mixon with a massive XFP number. Yeah. But again, with any of this, it's a 7-game sample size. So don't, overreact. But like Browning has played pretty well when he's been in. On a per dropback basis, everything has been good. They've still operated a pretty pass heavy offense,
right?
In terms of pass rate over expectation, it's still been positive. So I think any of these, or maybe even all of these guys, could be fine. There will be inconsistent games for T. Higgins for sure, and maybe even for Jamar Chase, but that's the case at wide receiver, for just about anybody. This is about as good as it gets, I think, for a backup QB coming in.
Yeah. A lot of people thought like, sorry, Adam, go ahead.
No, I gave these numbers yesterday, but Jake Browning was on pace for 4,537 yards and 27 touchdowns.
Wow.
In the 7 starts he made. He averaged 8.2 yards per attempt, which is really, really incredible.
Yeah, he'll try. He really looks downfield more than you would expect for a backup quarterback.
But he also averaged an interception per game.
Right.
And he threw 3 yesterday. He's a little careless, so there's that. I don't think they would make a change to another quarterback. I think they'll probably ride him out. So the numbers weren't great for Higgins and Chase last year when they were both healthy. There were only 3 games where Browning, Chase, and Higgins were all healthy. I said last year, I meant 2023. And they weren't great except for 1 game for Chase. But Tyler Boyd was getting a lot of targets. Tanner Hudson was getting targets. He had a 21.3% target. He actually led the Bengals in target per route run rate when Jake Browning was on the field in 2023. That's Tanner Hudson at 21.3%. Joe Mixon had a 20% target per route run rate.
Yep.
Andre Yojevas almost 20%. So Higgins was the one who really suffered. I am worried about Higgins. I don't really consider him a must start at this point. I consider him a probably start, but not a must start. Kind of in the Marvin Harrison Jr. range, or maybe the Jamison Williams range or something like that.
I think that's fair. And I just want to clarify something. Matt Weber says, looks more downfield than you would expect a backup to. What does that mean? Just what I mean by that is when I watch a lot of these backup quarterbacks who are thrust into games, they'll take the under. If it's a high-low concept, they'll take the low concept. That's what they do. Jake Browning is taking the high concept. Like, he is attacking downfield at a rate that you don't expect from a backup quarterback when it comes to what aggression, I guess, is the best way to describe it. The problem is, as Adam said, it leads to a lot of interceptions, and he doesn't have the best arm talent in the world. No. I don't think this is good news. Some people say this is good news for Chase Brown. Maybe they'll be more run heavy. The Bengals can't run block. They've never been able to run block under Zach Taylor, and they have no run scheme. So I don't think they're going to be able to just go to a run game, and they don't really use heavy personnel. So it's not like that when they had success in the run game, it's because Burrow spreads them out and they're facing these light boxes. So I don't really foresee that happening, to be honest. But I will say one thing you noted about Boyd, which is interesting, Adam, from watching the tape of this game, Eusebius had a much bigger role than I expected to after the Burrow injury when Browning was in. And so maybe that is something interesting. Maybe Eusebius, Andre Eusebius has like a decent Yosivash. I think it's Eusebius.
All right, I think it's Yoshi.
It might be Yosivash. I think
What's good for Chase Brown for fantasy is touchdowns and receptions. Right. So, like Dan said, the rushes up the middle do not really matter very much. You don't really want a bunch of those.
Exactly.
And that's all he does. He has every single running back carry for the Cincinnati Bengals through 2 games. But no, I mean, so, okay, I tried to do this yesterday, but if I were drafting again today, right, just week 3 and on,
right,
I said Chase would be middle to back half of the first round, no longer my number 1 overall player.
Sure.
Higgins falls to maybe like the 4 or 5 turn, somewhere in that range for me. Brown is definitely not a round 2 pick anymore. Chase Brown. I think he's round 4 almost. I mean, am I overreacting? And he's running like crap. The offensive line stinks, and I don't know.
I don't think we're going to score as much. Part of the appeal for me for Brown was just a ton of touchdowns for that offense. It sucks because I have Brown everywhere, but I can't really agree with any of that.
All right, so let's get some names here. So would you rather have
Breece Hall?
Yeah, Breece Hall or Chase Brown?
Ooh,
Brown.
PPR, I still rather have Brown.
I agree. Would you rather have Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, or Chase Brown?
Walker.
Brown.
The upside.
James Cook clearly over Brown.
Oh yeah,
James Cook over all these guys.
Right.
Tomorrow, maybe I'll ask Amari and Hampton. But yeah, like Chuba Hubbard versus Chase Brown is a question we have here.
I think still Brown.
I could see Chuba outscoring him very easily. I think there's more upside with Brown, especially in any sort of PPR format. That's a good one. ETN over Brown? It's Brown for me.
Brown. He still has, like you said, Adam, just crazy volume in this offense. And for PPR leagues, he should, like you said, Browning will check down to him. I don't know. It's just
okay. All right. That will be our first topic. So make sure you get Jake Browning in a super flex league. In fact, I don't know that I'm going to get him because I think someone's probably going to go close to 100%, and I am not going to do that. But I think I'm going to drop Joe Flacco for Jake Browning. Because I think Flacco's going to lose his job, within the next month. Has a good chance to.
Oh, you think he is? Has there been any comments on that, or you just think that?
I mean, they asked Stefanski about it. I said this earlier, and Stefanski brushed it off. It's not on him. It's not on him. But their next 2 games, I think, are Green Bay and Detroit. So I'm pretty sure they're going to be 0-4. Dylan Gabriel came in and threw a touchdown yesterday. Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota, Pittsburgh. I mean, it's not like they have any easy wins in that stretch. So I think, it's gonna happen at some point, and I think Browning will keep his job.